Here we go. So, as I say, you can either do the warm-up sat down or stood up today. It's entirely up to you, but I will say that the exercises I've got planned, the standing up exercises I've got planned today, are going to be fairly intense. But as always, if you need to take a rest, if you need to have a sit down and just take a breather, then please, as always, sit down and take a breather, especially if something's giving you a little bit of jip today. And please don't overdo it. Right, okay. So whether you're stood up or sat down, if you sat down, we're going to just do a little posture check. So I just want you to move the fleshy bit of your bum out the way. So try and sit on those bony bits in your bum. You've got both feet flat on the floor. And remember, we're just going to think about the tailbone, the very base of your spine. And then we're just going to try and lengthen our spine. So we're going to start at the bottom. Think about how the middle part of your back feels. Think about how the top part of your back feels. And then think about that piece of string pulling you up towards the ceiling to try and lengthen your spine. And then we're going to lift our shoulders up, roll our shoulders back and down. And then we're just going to hold that position and just have a think how that feels. Ingrain that muscle memory. And then you can slump again. And just one more time. I'm not going to spend too long doing to it. You've all done this many times with me before. So just one more time. Grow. So feel yourself being raised up. Feel yourself being lifted. Imagine those vertebrae are stacked perfectly one on top of the other. That piece of string is drawing you upwards towards the ceiling. We're going to lift our shoulders up, back and down. So you might feel the shoulders pull back slightly with your chest protruding a little bit more than it normally would. And you can relax there. All right, so let's get warm on a cold day. So marching on the spot. So if you sat down, you know the score. Nice and light on those toes. You're not slamming our foot into the ground. If you stood up, and we come all the way back here. If you stood up, again, just think about your posture. You're nice and tall. You can use your support if you need to, if you're doing this stood up. I'm going to do it sat down. There we go. So we're going for a brisk walk kind of speed. So we're nice and purposeful with our arms. We're not letting our arms be limp. We want to use our arms so that those muscles and those joints are working. We're not just thinking about the legs. But thinking about the legs, we are thinking about the tops of our hips and those muscles that are working, which lift our legs up and down. And as I say, we'll be nice and light on those feet. So let's change the arms, reaching out to the front. So just a nice extension to start off with. You don't need to overdo it. You don't need to overstretch at this stage. Let's get warm. Let's get the blood going through the body. So warming up the shoulders. We're warming up our backs, especially the upper back. And you'll start to feel your breathing rates increase. You'll start to feel your heart rate creep up. And hopefully your body temperature just raising just a couple of degrees. Burning a few calories as well as we go about it, which is another bonus. Back to normal marching. So again, be direct with those arms. Don't let them just flap around in the breeze. Mind your shoulders as we stretch up. So if it means that you've just got to start off on a slightly gentler version until you start to loosen up and then you can reach a little bit further, then please do. And as we go through our warm-up, just have a think about how your body's feeling. Is there anything that's giving you a few issues today that you just want to protect? You might not realise it until you start to do some of these exercises and you think, ooh, didn't feel that yesterday. What's that niggle about? So you might just have to be a little bit more cautious. Okay, reaching forward. Keeping those feet nice and light. And reaching up. And reaching forwards. And back to normal marching. Oh, there we go. Okay, so hands up. Let's give our hands a shake. And then nice loose wrists. Keep those feet moving as you twist in your wrists. And then fingers in and out. And back to marching. Okay, let's do some side steps. Bring our arms into it. Let's reach up. Let's push away. Let's do some curls. And reach up. Push away. And curl. And reach up. Push away. And some curls. We're just going to do that little sequence one more time. Reach up. Push away. And curl. Lovely job. Back to marching. Okay, stepping out this time with our heels leading. And a nice swing of those arms. Let's do opposite arm and leg. Go on, give it a go. Opposite arm and leg. Nice and purposeful, especially if you've got the room. Obviously, if you've got arms on the sides of your chairs, you might not be wanting to swing your elbows quite as much as I'm doing, because that'd be painful. But if you've got the room to do so, then give those arms a good swing. Okay, reaching forward with the toes this time, so dabbing those toes down. And now dabbing the heels. And now toes. And heels. And toes. And back to heels. Okay, so this time we're going to stretch out further with our arms. So we've got a really good reach now, as your shoulders should be nice and toasty warm. So you might find you can go just a little bit further with that rotation and that stretch. We're going to reach up. So stretching those fingertips up nice and high towards the ceiling. Stretching forwards. Come on, give it a good stretch. Stretching up. And stretching forwards. Come on, a little bit further with this stretch. And a little bit further with our overhead stretch. Fabulous. Back to marching. Okay, just want your heels going up and down. Just your heels. Keep your heels going up and down. Touch your shoulders. All right, you with me so far? Now, I can't tell if your heels are still going up and down. All right, so I'm going to have to trust you. Roll those elbows around whilst your heels are still going up and down. There you are. That'll test your brain cells. Next week, patting your head and rubbing your tummy. And roll those elbows in the other direction. Hopefully those heels are still going up and down. Fabulous. Relax there. Just give your shoulders a bit of a shake. So sitting up nice and tall, one arm on top of the other, nice straight back. And then we're going to twist from one side to the other. And remember, we're looking to get that twist and that rotation going through the tummy and the rib cage and the lower back, rather than just your rather than just your shoulders going from side to side. Lovely job. And relax there. Give those shoulders a bit of a shake. A little bit with our legs. So where your legs, don't mind which, lift it up. And then just a little bit of a swing forwards. And now just your ankle up and down. Got my bright pink socks on today. You can see my feet. And then side to side. And a circle with that ankle. And circle around in the other direction. And relax there. And your other leg for me, please. Kicking forwards and backwards. And just the ankle, flexing it up and down. And side to side. And a circle. And circle in the other direction, please. Lovely job. And relax there. So a little bit with our hips, sitting up nice and tall. A leg, I don't mind which. I'm going to start off with this one. I'm going to lift up, out, down, and in. Up, out, down, and in. Make it smooth and more circular. One more. Fabulous. Good. And the other leg for me, please. Up, out, down, and in. Up, out, down, and in. And now you've got that movement. You can make it smooth and controlled. One more. Fabulous. And the other leg for me, please. This time we're going to go in the other direction. We're going to slide, lift, in, and lower. Slide, lift, in, and lower. Have you got it? Making that circular movement, that slide, lift, in, and down. Last one, slide, lift, in, and down. Finally, on the other leg, same again. We're going to slide, lift, in, down. Slide, lift, in, down. Have you got it? Beautiful, lovely. Nice and smooth, nice and controlled. Last one. Slide, lift, in, and down. And relax there. Sit up nice and tall, press up position. We're going to push all the way out, all the way back. So stretching forwards as far as you can, and coming back. All the way forwards and back. I thought you were waving at me then, and then I just realised that it's just hands getting quite close to the camera, and then pull back. I thought someone was... All right, one more for me, one more press up, all the way out, all the way back, and relax there. Do a little bit for our elbows, so we've got our imaginary ball, we're bringing it overhead, and then we're going to start throwing that ball with some vim, and vigour, and speed and alacrity. Come on, really give that ball some juice. Couldn't think of the word then. Come on, keep it going. Come on, nice and fast, nice and snappy. All right, and slow it down. Bring those arms back and give your shoulders a bit of a shake. Right, I'm not going to do any sprinting or boxing or anything like that today. So, I can't remember, about a week or so ago, we tried the clock, we tried to work that out. Eventually, once I sorted the sound out, that seemed to work. So, I'm going to do a variation on that today. I'm going to just change the sound round, so just bear with me just a moment. All right, let me just turn this off. Okay, continue without. All right, hang on just a second. So, can you still hear me? Give me a thumbs up. Good, okay. So, if you're not already done so, please sit down. So, we're going to use the clock. So, you're sat down at the moment. I want you to imagine that in front of you on the floor is the top half of a clock. All right? So, on your left should be 9 o'clock. In front of you is 12 o'clock. And on your right side is 3 o'clock. Are you with me so far? Yes, I'm listening. So in a moment, I'm going to start the clock. What you're going to do is you're going to stand up, you're going to step to whichever time it calls out, and then you're going to sit down. Can you still hear me, by the way? Yeah, good. Thank you, Jim. Jean's leaving, she's had enough, so I'm not doing this. Right, so let me just repeat that. So in a moment, I'm going to start the clock. It'll call out a time, you will stand up and then step to that time. So let's say it says 3 o'clock, you're going to stand up, step to the 3 o'clock position, come back to the centre and then sit down. Then it'll call out another time, you stand up, you step, come back, sit down. We're going to see how this goes. It's on really slow, by the way, so let's see how it goes. I can make it slower, but I can also speed it up. We're going to do 30 seconds. Let me just turn this up and hopefully be able to hear it. Right, let's give it a go, and if it doesn't work, then we'll obviously move swiftly on. 3. In a minute. 10. So we're going to stand up. We step to 10, come back, and we sit down. 2. We're going to stand up. We step to 2 o'clock. We come back and sit down. 1. We stand up, we step to the 1 o'clock position, come back, sit down. 9. We're going to stand up, we're going to step to 9 o'clock, come back, sit down. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do, as you may have noticed, I'm doing the opposite. So I'm going to try and be your mirror. Right, hang on a second. We're going to try that again. I'm going to speed it up slightly. I'm going to make it, that was 20 steps per minute. So I'm going to make it 30 steps per minute. If the standing up and sitting down is too much for you or it's too quick, there's a couple of things you can do. You can either sit down and just step,
So you stay sat down the whole time and just step to 3, step to 12, step to 9, whatever it is. Second option, you can stay stood up the whole time and then just step without doing the stand up, sit down. And then the third option is you just go every other one. You only stand up and sit down every other count, if you like. So you've got some options there. Either stay standing and step out. You can either stay stood up and step out, or you can just do every other one if it's too much for you. All right, we're going to try it again. Right, here we go. 9. Stand up, step to the 9 o'clock position, come back, sit down.
3. 12.
12 o'clock.
1.
Oh, you're struggling to see my head when it's on the body. Never mind.
10. 11. 9.
Okay, how's that going? Is it coming through okay? Right, I'm gonna push my luck. I'm just gonna try it one last time, exactly the same, still 30 seconds. I'm not gonna change it to months or anything like that. I don't want to push my luck. So just one last 30 seconds, and then we'll leave the clock for today. So hopefully you're starting to get the hang of it now. All right, hang on a second, just make sure everyone's still with me. I'm thoroughly unimpressed, but never mind, I'm in charge. Right, you ready? So the last 30 seconds.
10. 9. 12. 3. 1. 2. 9.
Right, okay. I'm going to knock it on the head there. Right, so bear with me. I'm just going to change the sound back and hopefully this will go very smoothly.
Right, can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Whew, phew. Right, that makes me very happy. Right, so sit down for me. Grab your resistance band. Right, so we're just going to do one resistance band exercise and then the rest of the session will be stood up and we'll be doing some leg strengtheners. I just wanted to, just as a continuation with the shoulders that we did last week, I want to just do a little bit of mobility. If there are 2 of you doing the exercises right now, and just make sure you've got some space between the pair of you. All right, otherwise there'll be chaos and confusion and tears. So just make sure that if you sat next to someone, you've got some space. So single band, you know, we haven't doubled the band over. And I want your hands to be quite wide. So, well, what am I there? About 2.5 feet. Arms straight, and we're going to sit up nice and tall. So just nice and steady, just in your own time, we're going to lift the band up about shoulder height, and then back down. And then we're going to go a little bit further, and back down. And a little bit further again. So what we're doing here is building up the mobility in our shoulders. Just go with where you can. If you can get above your head, give the band a bit of a pull. Back in, and then lower. So we're just looking for this nice arc, if you like, that we're drawing. So this raising up with a pull, and then a lowering. Our arms are almost drawing an arc. Don't worry if you can't manage the pull or if you can't get the band above your head. Just go with where you can. So if you get to sort of this height, give it a little pull and then lower if this is what you can do today. All right, so just relax there and give those shoulders a bit of a shake, just because you get tired quite quickly doing this particular exercise. So we're just going to do just a couple of more. Now, if your shoulders are feeling pretty good after those few that you've done, If you get to a point where when you pull, you can go behind your head and bring it back, then please do, but only if you feel comfortable, if there's no pain. I don't want to see this, oh, I can get this arm, but the other arm's rubbish. You want nice, smooth movements in both shoulders. So this is why we're doing this with a resistance band, because it allows you, when you pull, just to get that a little bit further behind you, if you want to. But I'm looking for smoothness. Don't worry if you can't manage it. Not the end of the world. All right, just one more for me. And then when you come back to that start position, bring your arms all the way down, give your shoulders a shake, and just put the band to one side. That was my one resistance band exercise for today. All right, just to keep those shoulders loose. Right, so without further ado, please stand up. Get to your support, back of your chair, the back of the couch, your radiator, your wall, whatever it is you're using today. So I'm going to be moving my support, which is just this pad thing. I'm going to be moving it around. So the first exercise we're going to do is for our bum. So the exercises today are strength exercises. They are not balance exercises. So don't feel bad about using your support. All right, that's what it's there for today. I want you to concentrate on strength. And as I said at the very start, if you're not happy, if something hurts, or you just feel a bit tired, then please take a seat. Just get your breath back, have a slurp of water, and join back in when you're ready. Okay? So as I say, the first exercise is for our bum. You're going to stand holding your support with both hands. You're going to stand up nice and tall. Let me just come this way just a wee bit. So you're going to stand up nice and tall. You're going to keep your chest lifted. We don't want with this next exercise for our body, the upper body, to come forwards and backwards. So a leg, I don't mind which, I'm going to start the leg that's nearest to the camera. I'm going to move my heel behind. You'll notice it's not going very far. I'm going to squeeze my bum and then bring it back to that start point. Let me come over here, then I've got a bit more room. Hopefully you can see me. Then the other leg, so keep my chest lifted. I'm going to move my heel behind me. It comes off the ground, a couple of inches, and then back to the start. And then the other one. So in an effort to try and do really well with this exercise, you might feel the urge to cheat and bring your head forward because you want to get your leg up nice and high. I don't care about that. I want you to keep your chest lifted as you move your leg behind you. Lead with the heel. Doesn't take much. You will feel those bum muscles, your gluteus maximus, your glute muscles contract. Just nice and smooth. Move that heel behind you, give your bum a squeeze, back to the start. Keep that chest up, keep your head lifted, just moving that leg behind you. Fabulous, and relax there. So we're going to come back to that in a moment. So the next one I'm going to do, we're just going to come down the leg a little bit further and we're going to look at the back of the leg now. These muscles here on the back of your thigh, they're called your hamstring muscles. Same start position, so you're still holding onto the back of your chair or your support. You're still keeping your chest lifted. So this time, start off gently. All right, that's my advice. Don't try and do amazing on your very first rep, otherwise you'll end up with a little bit of cramp in the back of the leg. So start off slowly and build it up. But what you're looking to do is bring your heel now towards your bum and then back down. You won't be able to get your heel towards your bum, but that's what we're aiming for. Try and keep your knees together so your knees aren't coming out to the side and you've not got one knee coming forwards. You want your knees to stay next to each other. As you curl your foot behind you, almost like you're trying to touch your bum. And you will feel those muscles through the back of the thigh. Just take it nice and steady. As I say, if you overdo it, you can start to feel a little bit of cramp creeping into the back of the thigh. So nice and steady. Alternating your legs. Fabulous. Okay, relax there. Give those legs a bit of a shake. So we're going to go back to that first one, the bum. So it's keeping your leg almost straight and then moving the heel behind you and then back to the start. And then the other leg, move it behind you, back to the start. So we're just alternating the legs again. Lead with the heel behind you. Try and keep your hips pointing forwards. Try and keep your chest up. Just moving that foot behind you. Give that bum a bit of a squeeze and then return the leg to the start position. Good, and relax there. Give those legs a little bit of a shake. So going back to that second exercise for the hamstrings, for the back of the thighs. Again, keeping your hips facing forward, keeping your hips square, keeping your knees next to each other. And then curling the foot behind you, trying to aim for your bum. And you'll feel those thigh muscles, the back of your thigh muscles contract, keeping them nice and strong. Fabulous. One more on each leg for me, please. Lovely job. And then just give your legs a little bit of a shake. Just any tension that's crept into those muscles, you're just shaking out that tension. Okay, so our next one, so we've done our bum, we've done the back of our thighs. So we're going to come round to the hips now. So you can stay in the same position. I'm just going to turn and face you as if I'm holding onto my support. So if this was my support in front of me, I'm just going to move that out of the way. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to see it. So a little bit of artistic license. So again, we're just going to stand nice and tall. Our feet are next to each other and our hips are pointing forward. So this next exercise is for our hips, specifically the outer part of our hips. We are not moving our torso. So our body stays nice and upright. We're holding on to our support and we're going to move a leg out to the side using our hip and then we're going to bring it back to the start. Same leg out to the side and back to the start. So you'll notice my body isn't leaning over. I'm staying nice and tall. As I move that leg out, I'm going to hold it just for half a second and then I'm going to come back to the start. And it doesn't take many, does it, before you start to feel that tension through the outer part of your hip. Perhaps you're feeling it in the outer part of your bum. Not a big movement. You'll notice I'm not kicking. I'm not swinging my leg. I'm moving my leg with a controlled fashion out to the side and then back to the start. So I'm not trying to swing it up there. I'm moving it out in a nice controlled fashion and back to the start. We're going to do one more on that side. And back to the start. Now give your legs a bit of a shake because I know the standing leg gets achy as well. Speaking of that standing leg, let's do the other side. So again, just set yourself, nice posture, nice and tall. You've got hold of your support and your both hips are pointing forward. Your other leg now, nice controlled out to the side and back to the start. Remember, despite what you might be seeing in the camera right now, this is not a balance exercise. I'm just in this position to demonstrate what's going on. Because if I put my support in front of me, you can't see what I'm doing. If I'm here, it's difficult to see what I'm doing. So it's just a little bit of artistic license. Moving that leg out to the side, back to the start. Nice and controlled. So you might find one side feels better than the other. Don't worry too much about that. Just think about your technique. Think about just feeling that effort through the outer part of the leg and back down. We're going to do one more. Back to the start. And again, just shake out those legs. How are we doing? All right. How are we doing for time? Oh, I've got loads of time. You'd be pleased to know. So we're going back onto the other leg. We're going to do exactly the same. Now you got the hang of it. So again, just think about your posture. Feet next to each other, standing up nice and tall. Onto the other leg now, push it out, just hold it for that half a second, back to the start. Move it out, back to the start. Strength exercise, control. Not using weights, we're just using our own body weight, which is sufficient. No doubt you're finding that through that hip. You're probably feeling it in your standing leg as well. Just one more for me on this side. Lovely job. And again, just relax. Just give your legs just a little bit of a shake. Shake out that tension, especially that tension in the standing leg. And now we're going to move on to the other side. So again, just set yourself nice and tall. Keep those hips square. Move that leg out to the side and back down. So that leg's not coming up too high, you'll notice, not unless you're an Olympic gymnast. It's coming a couple of inches off the ground and then coming back to that start position. Doesn't really matter how high you're able to lift that leg, as long as it's done with control. Fabulous. One more for me on this side. Lovely job. And relax there, give those legs a bit of a shake. Okay, so I'm just going to change my running order around a little bit. So I'm going to do some lunges next. I'm going to do some static lunges. So lunges is quite an intense exercise. And if you're concerned in any way about things like your knees or your hips, please just take it nice and steady. I'm going to show you just a couple of different variations which will still enable you to do the lunge, but in a nice controlled manner. You'll need your support. You'll need to stand side on to your support for this one. Okay, so you'll notice I've got my hand in contact with my support and I'm stood side on. I'm going to keep my chest lifted. All the way through this next movement, I'm going to keep my chest up because there is a temptation for chest to drop, for you to look down on the floor. I want you to keep looking straight ahead. I don't mind which leg you want to start off with. I'm going to start off with this leg, my left leg. I'm going to take a big stride forwards. So it's an exaggerated step. My back heel comes off the ground. I'm just going to move that, I'm going to move that there so you can see. My front knee, I've got a little bit of a bend in. My chest is lifted. So this is the lunge now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bend both legs. Now, if your knees are not so good, this might be your range of movement, okay? It's up to you. If your knees are feeling pretty good and you can go a little bit lower, don't touch the ground, come back up. But it's what you're trying to do is sink down and up. We're not sinking forwards. We're not doing this. That's weird. Puts a lot of strain on your front knee. So we're dropping down and then we're coming back up. You might feel a bit of a stretch through this back hip. You'll certainly be feeling these thigh muscles on the front leg. So just nice and controlled. I'm just going to do one more. And you come up and then bring that back leg to the front. Okay, give your legs a little bit of a shake. We're going to do exactly the same on the other side, but bearing in mind, obviously, depending on you, it might be slightly different on one side compared to the other. Just bear that in mind. Rest if you need to rest. Right, so your other leg this time takes an exaggerated step forward. Your back heels come off the ground. You've got your support. Chest is lifted. And again, as before, we're going to bend both knees as if we're dropping towards the ground. And then we're coming back up. Dropping as much as you want to, and then coming back up. So if you've got a small movement here, tell you what, you're still using these muscles. You're still stretching out the front of your hip. You're still using these thigh muscles. You're still using your bum. It's doing a lunge uses an awful lot of leg muscles. I just want you to do one more for me. And then relax, bring that back leg to front. Okay, how are we doing? All right, just give your legs a little bit of a shake. We are going to do some more of those. You can either, if you want to, you've got 3 options now. You can sit out the next bit if you want to. If that's enough for you today for lunges, that's absolutely fine. Second option, you can continue to do exactly what we have just done. This movement here, called a static lunge because your feet aren't moving. The third option, depending on you, depending on how you're feeling, is a little bit more of a dynamic lunge. Let me show you, but then you can make a decision then of whether you want to try it or not. So I'm still in contact with my support. Let me show you. So the dynamic lunge is you take that exaggerated step forward, drop down, push up, and step back. And then you do the other side. Okay, so I'm going to leave it up to you. Use your support. It's not a balance exercise. Alternatively, you've got that static version where you're not moving your feet. Or if you just want to take a rest for the next few minutes, again, you're more than welcome to do so. Okay, I'm going to talk you through the dynamic one if you're going to give that a go. All right, so we're going to take that exaggerated step forward, back heel off the ground. We're going to bend, straighten, push this front leg to join the back leg. The other side, big step forward, bend, straighten, push through this back leg to start. Then the other side. If you're doing the static one, nice and steady. If you're doing the static version, nice and controlled though. Whichever version you're doing, nice and controlled. If we're doing the dynamic, big step, bend, straighten, push back to start. The other leg, big step, bend, straighten, push back. We're going to do one more on each side. Last one on this leg. Fabulous. Relax. Give your legs a bit of a shake. We okay? I hope so. Cursing me. That's why you're on mute. Okay. Lunges, really good exercise, but I know they're challenging. They're a difficult exercise to do. You can practice them at home. You can certainly practice the static one, and using your worktop is ideal. So if you're in the kitchen, I always mention this, if you're boiling the kettle, then do the static lunge. Just get into that position. You're holding onto your worktop because your worktop's a lovely height to be doing exercises like this. And just do this genuflexion. That's all it is. This movement here stretches out those hips and uses these big muscles in your thigh and in your bum. You just need to do 4 or 5. You can come back, give your legs a little bit of a shake, and then you can get onto the other side. Again, 4 or 5 of these static lunges. And then by that point, your tea's brewed or your kettle's boiled, and then you can go and crack on with whatever it is you were doing. Okay, so I've just waffled on there for 30 seconds just to give your legs a rest. Because what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do some squats. Now, you've already done some squats today, but I'm going to carry on doing them. When we did the sit to stand as part of the clock at the start, doing the sit to stand is a version of a squat. We're going to do a second version now, and we're going to do the sumo squat. Again, I'm going to stand facing you as if I'm holding onto my support. So you want to be holding onto your support with both hands for this one. Or at the very least, just resting your hands on the top of your support. So both feet are facing forwards. With me so far? Good. That's the easy bit. So I just want you to move your feet apart so they are quite wide. Now wider than shoulder width apart. So almost like you are sat on a horse. So quite wide. I'm not looking for sort of like gymnast. but sort of, you know, quite wide. Okay. Then from this point, I want you to turn your toes out so they are at the 10 o'clock and the 2 o'clock position. And what that also does then is it turns your knees and your thighs outwards as well. So even more pronounced as if you're sat on a horse. You've got your hands resting on your support. You with me so far? Right, so squats. I'm just going to turn this way. So when you do your squats, as you bend your knees, your bum is going to go backwards. Keep that back straight. So we're not rounding our back, we're keeping our back straight, and then hips go forwards. So I don't mind, as always, I don't mind how much you bend your knees. I don't mind. So it might be a shallow bend. You might be able to go a little bit deeper as you come up. As long as you maintain that posture and that technique of your bum going backwards, bum going forwards, bum going backwards, bum goes forwards. Both feet stay flat on the floor, so we're not lifting our heels off the ground. That's going to cause a lot of damage. And when you do your squat, you should, because of the way you have turned your feet, you should feel an additional pull through the inner part of the thighs. Nice and steady. Rest if you need to rest. Okay, just one more for me. And then just walk your feet back in and give your legs a little bit of a shake. Everyone all right? Okay, I'm not going to do any more of those. As I say, you did a variation of them at the start. I'm going to do one last standing up exercise. There is one on my board I'm not going to do today. There's a variation on the lunges, but I'm not going to do it. So, in fact, two more exercises, sorry, standing up. And it's for the lower part of the leg now, so it's for your calf, and we'll do the front of your leg as well, the shin area. So again, you can either stand side onto your support for this one, or you can stand directly behind your support. It doesn't really matter for this one. This time, your feet are underneath your hips, so we're not dead wide like we were before, but we're not dead close together. So just a little bit of space between your feet. We're going to think about our posture. So that muscle memory we've talked about before with our posture, we're going to stay nice and tall. And then from here, we're just going to gently transfer our body weight, our center of gravity forwards, so that it allows us to come up onto our tiptoes and then lower back down. So we're just gently shifting that center of gravity forwards, nice and high on your tiptoes, nice and controlled on the way back down. I want you to feel those calf muscles, especially at the top, and then lower back down. So just hold that position at the top just for a second. Don't just slam your heels back down onto the ground. Lower your heels with grace and with dignity. Still thinking about that posture? Have we got it? Beautiful, lovely. Just one more for me. And relax there. Just give those legs a little bit of a shake. So the second one is the opposite. And again, use your support for this one. There's no prizes for being able to do this without holding onto your support, especially because with this one, you have to shift your center of gravity backwards. This is the one where there is a danger of toppling backwards. So please just bear that in mind. So this one, as I say, you shift your center of gravity backwards, so it's over your heels, which allows you to lift your toes off the ground, and then you lower back down. So we're trying to lift those toes up as high as possible. We're holding it for a second. I've lost my balance. It just demonstrates my point. I'm not using a proper support, but it just demonstrates my point about your balance. We're trying to lift those toes up as high as you can. Hold it for a second, and then lower back down with control. And you should feel these muscles next to your shins start to work. They're not big muscles, but they're important muscles. Helps us to obviously have control of our ankles. When you're out and about and you've got those uneven paving stones, if you're able to lift your toes up, then you're less likely to trip over things like uneven paving stones or curbstones, things like that. Because you know you've got the confidence to be able to lift those toes up. Try and avoid the temptation with this one to stick your bum out. I forgot to mention that. Just the toes. All right, relax there, give those legs a bit of a shake. So we're going to combine those two movements. This is where it becomes a bit more dynamic. Again, it's not a balance exercise. I know we've done it in the past, balance. Just use your support. I just want you to have control. That's what I'm after now, as we combine those two movements. So we rock forwards to lift our heels. We rock backwards to lift the toes. Changing your center of gravity. As I say, you're still using your support. There's nothing wrong with that. But we're looking for control. Trying to get as much range of movement through our lower leg, through our ankle as we can, whilst using those important muscles in our lower leg. Fabulous. One more in each direction. And when you've done that, relax. Give your legs a little bit of a shake. We all right? Cursing me, I bet. Right, take a seat for me. Take a seat. Relax. Rest those weary legs. Oh, I can almost hear the sigh coming from you. All right, so how are we doing for time? Right, I'm going to just very quickly do a little bit of ab exercises because we've missed out on them over the last couple of weeks. So we'll just do just a little bit. you'd be pleased to know. Right, so what I want you to do is I want you to shuffle forwards so that you're perched on the edge of your chair. You've got both feet flat on the floor, and you're going to hold on to the seat of your chair. Okay, you're with me so far. So you sat as far forward as you can, both feet are flat on the floor, you're holding onto the side of your chair, you're sitting up nice and tall. And we're going to gently lean back. Use those tummy muscles and then sit up. So keep your chest lifted, using those tummy muscles as you lean back. Squeeze those tummy muscles to sit up. Let me just come around here so you can see me side on. So we're leaning back, squeezing those muscles to come up and back and up. Last one for a moment. We're back. And we're squeezing those tummy muscles to come up. All right, with me so far? We're going to do one last little set. So you can carry on if you want to, if you prefer, holding onto the seat of your chair. But if you do want a little bit of additional difficulty, you can put your hands across your chest if you wanted to. So you're not holding on to anything. Right, you ready? So we're going to lean back, use those tummy muscles, sit up, keep that chest lifted, and back, and up, squeeze those muscles, and back, and up. We're going to do 2 more. That's it, 2 more, and then we're into our stretches. Last one, really squeezing those muscles, and you can relax there. That wasn't so bad, was it? I bet you prefer to do those than some of those leg exercises we've just been doing. All right then, that's it, that's the hard work done. Should we do some stretches? If you aren't already sat down, then please sit down. Good, right, okay, so let's get straight onto some leg stretches, as always. So let's extend a leg out, get it straight as possible, and then those toes, I want you to try and point them up towards the ceiling. And what we're looking for here is that calf stretch, that really nice stretch through the back of the lower leg. You are also stretching out that Achilles tendon in the back of the heel. We're going to point our toes forwards, and now we're stretching out through the top of the ankle, top of your foot. And then we're going to pull back, see if you can get a little bit further this time. So really try and point those toes back up towards your own face now. And then relax that foot. So just take the tension off the foot. Keep that leg straight, but put both hands now onto your bent leg. Sit up nice and tall. And then we're going to gently lean forwards. Take the weight of your torso on this bent leg. And just gently go forwards now until you start to feel that stretch running through the back of your thigh. And as always now, we're just relaxing. So we're not bouncing up and down on this stretch. We're just trying to sink further and further down. If you do want a more intense stretch, you can point your toes back up towards the ceiling, and you'll get an even deeper stretch through the back of that thigh. And then we're going to push back up to your seated position. Change legs for me, extend the other leg out. And again, we're looking to get that leg nice and straight, and then point those toes up towards the ceiling. So these legs might be a little bit achy over the next few days, considering some of those exercises you've been doing today. Point those toes forwards. Hopefully you've got no plans to be scaling, I don't know, any of the mountains or, well, can't go anywhere these days, can we? Not till next week. Point those toes up towards the ceiling. In fact, try and point the toes back up towards your face for that deeper stretch. And then relax your foot. Both hands onto your bent leg. Sitting up nice and tall. And then again, leaning forward, take the weight of your torso onto this bent leg. Start to enjoy that stretch running through the back of the thigh as you relax. And then point those toes up towards the ceiling if you want to, if you do want that deeper stretch. And then relax and push back up to your seated position. Okay, so I'm going to do a hip stretch. I'm going to do a hard one. I'm going to do an easy one. So the hard one is the one where we try and craft across our ankle onto the top of our knee. And if you can't manage that because you're not so confident with your hips, you simply haven't got the flexibility through your hips, then don't worry. Your option is this one where we pull our knee up towards our chest. So the harder version is where we cross our ankle onto our knee. And as I say, it's a really intense hip stretch this. So don't worry if you can't manage this position. Your alternative is to do the knee hug. If you have got your foot across your knee, you can apply just a little bit of top pressure onto that knee there, just to intensify that stretch. And then we're going to release. And then if you want an even deeper stretch, lean forwards. And whichever version you're in now, I want you to relax and drop that leg towards the ground. We're going to do the other side. So either crossing the ankle onto the top of the knee, or if this is too much, give that knee a good hug. Okay, still giving it that hip a stretch, just in a slightly different way. If you have your leg crossed, you're going to apply a little bit of top pressure to that knee. Not for too long, we're going to release it. And then we're just going to gently lean forwards just to change the point of that stretch. And then we're going to relax. And whichever position you're in, you're going to drop that leg down to the ground. Okay, a little bit for our upper body. One hand in front of the other. And then push those hands out to the front so you get the stretch across your upper back. We're going to release. And then we're just going to do that one more time. So we're just going to push away. You might get a little bit further, you might get a slightly deeper stretch now on the second stretch. And then we're going to release. Onto the chest, so either hands on the small of your back, or if you prefer holding onto your chair, that's fine. We're going to sit up tall. We're going to roll the shoulders back and then push the chest out. And then relax. So we'll do that again. You might get a little bit further. So roll the shoulders back first and then allow the chest to be pushed out. So really stretching through the front of the shoulders and the chest right now. And then relax there. A little bit with our shoulders. And arm across the front of your body. Holding onto your elbow and then just gently pulling in on that elbow to stretch through the back of your shoulder. And then releasing that, your other arm, same again, reaching across the front, holding onto your elbow and pulling in. And relax there. I'm just going to do a twist. So a hand onto your opposite knee, your other hand holding onto the side of your chair or onto the small of your back. You sit up tall and then pull yourself around to whichever hand is holding onto the side of your leg. Try and stay tall, try and keep your back nice and long. And then coming back through to the center and onto the other side. So just changing that hand position around. Nice and tall, so you're lengthening your spine and then you're pulling yourself around. And remember you're trying to get the stretch through the tummy, through the lower back, through the rib cage. And then coming back through to the center. Some shrugs up and down. Just keep those shoulders loose. And then roll your shoulders backwards. Nice and relaxed now. As we go into our next stretches, remember just moving the head, not your shoulders or your waist. So sitting up nice and tall. And then turn your head and eyes round and look over your shoulder. Keep that back nice and long. You've just turned the head, that is all. Come back to the center and then turning, looking all the way over towards your other shoulder. And back to the center. Now we're going to tilt to one side. So we're just going to let the head hang heavy to one side. So you feel that stretch running through the side of your neck. And then coming back up and then dropping across to the other side. And then back up. Now lowering your chin towards your chest. And slowly lifting up, looking up towards the ceiling. And bringing it back down. And finally, those nice circles, nice and gently. We're not head banging. And then very gently back round in the other direction, drawing a circle with your chin. And relax there, not too much. Give your hands a final shake for me, please. And give your legs a pat down. And importantly, give yourself a round of applause, everybody. Is everyone all right?